vacation, taking some time to move our entire place into a new house. Here we are. Welcome back. Welcome into my kitchen. Welcome into the new kitchen. Lots more space. I hope the sound is okay. We do have lots more room now. It's like a palatial estate in here. It's fantastic. And to kick this off tonight, I thought that we would start by making one of my personal favorite comfort soups. It's kind of rainy outside. It's not a great day around here. It's kind of miserable. So today we're going to make some French onion soup. We're going to make some really nice caramelized onions, really nice and sweet with a lot of herbs, and then we're going to do some nice toasted crostinis on top. Because I don't have oven-proof bowls, we're not going to do it inside. Excuse me. But we are going to do an amazing cheese crostini. I say crostini. It's going to be a giant piece of bread with a whole bunch of cheese on top. So we might as well get started right in here. So once again, thank you for joining me. Thanks for coming back to the first one of the re-up of the cooking streams. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get right into this. So we're going to cut a whole mess of onions. Now this is one 2-pound bag of onions that I've peeled, and we're going to get these sliced up. Now I've already got my pot on the stove. We're going to turn the heat up to a little over medium, just to kind of get things going right away. Now I'm going to take out my onions. I'm going to put them on the board here. They're starting to sweat a little bit since I peeled them, which is okay. But all we're going to do with these is we're going to do a very simple, just straight up and down julienne. Hopefully my pots and pans underneath the table here are not rattling too much that you guys can't hear what's going on. And we're just going to do a very, very simple cut on these onions. Now, doing a simple julienne on these is going to provide you with the most surface area, which will allow you to brown and caramelize your onions in the best possible manner, and do it as quickly as possible as well. Because we're going to make this in a little bit shorter time than you normally would for a French onion soup. Because obviously, like a really traditional, full-blown, taking your time French onion soup, you're talking about putting hours of time in. Simmering and caramelizing and really, really, really taking an incredible amount of time to really build and layer some very, very, very intense flavors. Now, what we're doing here is we're going to kind of push those flavors a little bit. We're going to kind of help them out. Can I get an excuse me in chat for my camera person here? Have a little sneeze. What we're going to do is we're going to keep cutting these onions, and whew, they are strong. They are bringing tears to my eyes right now. But that's okay, because strong onions are tasty onions. So again, the big thing too is that it looks like we are using a ton of onions. The reality is that we are going to lose approximately 40% of our volume in weight through caramelization and through evaporation. Because as we cook these, and as we cook them down, and as we get everything kind of rendered out of there, we're going to lose, I'm just going to pick up some onions here off the floor so my cat doesn't get out. We're going to lose a lot of that weight in the volume. So that's good. It's kind of like dealing with spinach, not quite as much loss on there. If you've ever made any kind of anything with spinach and had to wilt down spinach for a recipe, it calls for like 5 pounds of spinach at the beginning, and you're looking at that giant bag going, there's no way this is the right amount. And then by the end, you're looking at it going, there's no way I have enough. Onions are similar, but not quite that bad. So again, we're just going to keep busting through these and get all of these onions cut and ready to go into the pan. And like I said, I have the pan on the oven already. It's heating up. It's on electric 6 right now, so it's about, it's a little over half. And really, I'm just kind of letting it gain enough heat because we're going to throw some fat in the bottom of the pan. We're just going to use a little bit of oil to start. And then we're going to start caramelizing our onions. I'm just going to wipe that off real quick. We're going to take all of these beautiful onions and just get them into our bowl here. So then we can take them across and get them into our pot. Let's get all these guys out there. So like I said, it looks like there's a ton of onions there, and that we're gonna have too many. We're definitely not. Now, this is one of also the few times where you don't really have to worry about crowding the pot. So a lot of times you'll hear people talk about crowding the pot or the pan, getting too much in there and preventing good caramelization because you're preventing moisture escape. Now, if we were gonna really drag this process out into a super long version of this, I would do these in batches. I would add my onions, I would caramelize them really nice and deep, then I'd add another batch, which would pull that caramel out, which would then soften the next onions, and we'd batch them in ways like that. Unfortunately, doing that, it takes a lot of time. You're talking about at least an hour worth of caramelizing and batching your onions. So this way, we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of olive oil, or sorry, vegetable oil in there first. We're just going to move this around just a little bit as that gets nice and hot. And now we're just going to let that oil pick up that residual heat. Now I'm just going to bring my onions over there so we can have them nice and close. And once that oil starts to almost smoke, just below smoking, is when I'm going to get those onions in there. Because we want a lot of heat hitting those onions right off the bat to really kind of kick off that caramelization process right immediately as they get in there. So my oil is running around my pot really nice and quickly, which means we do a tester. So we take one onion. That's the sound we're looking for. The moisture popping out of there, all of that sound, that's exactly what we're looking for. So now I'm going to take all of my onions and we're going to dump them, almost all of them in there, except for the ones that I totally missed. Which we'll just pick up real quick, again, because I don't want my cat eating onions off the floor. That wouldn't be very tasty. And those can go away. So, now that I have my onions in the pot, again, it looks like we have way too many onions in there. We definitely don't. At this point, we just kind of leave that alone. We're going to let that caramelize. We're going to come back to it every once in a while. We're going to stir it. We're going to get those really nice caramelized onions off the bottom, bring them up to the top, so the top ones can then do the exact same process. When leaving them alone like this, the nice thing is those caramelizing onions at the bottom, as they're releasing that moisture and steam, they are gradually steaming and cooking all the onions above them. So it is actually helping the process out, because then when you turn your onions, they're already to the point where the sugars are starting to leach out of them in the moisture. So as soon as they hit that hot contact surface, caramelization starts immediately. Whereas this way, you actually have to draw the process out. So we are actually going to be, it will actually help it out. So while we are doing that, we can get into the next ingredient that's going to go into the pot. And that is an entire bulb of garlic. Now, again, seems like a lot. One bulb of garlic to a lot of people is a lot of garlic. But what you have to remember is that we are caramelizing everything. We are making it so we are going to be drawing out the natural moisture and natural sugars that are hiding inside of these beautiful root vegetables. Now, the nice thing about things like onions and garlic contain a lot of natural sugar, which allows us to which really allows us to take advantage of this process. Now, the nice thing, again, about using onions and garlic in your cooking is that they are a very manipulatable product. You can really make them taste any way you want. You can really kind of guide the flavor and the flavor profile that you want to put towards them. So here, we're going to accentuate the sweetness of the onion with the caramelization process by doing the same thing on the garlic. By just simply, all we're going to do is we're going to crush this. We're going to dice it up really nice and fine. We're going to throw it right on top of our onions right now. So that steaming process, it's helping out the onions cook a little bit. We'll also grab that garlic and it'll start to leach out all that beautiful moisture. Then when we start turning it around, that garlic is going to start to caramelize. And caramelized garlic is one of the most beautiful things in the world. It becomes crisp and it becomes almost a smoky sweetness. It's very unique in its flavor profile. It's absolutely one of my favorites. So that's the garlic we're going to use. I'm just going to quickly get rid of all my garlic skins here into the garbage. And then all we're going to do is we're going to take this garlic with my knife. We'll use the flat side of the knife, pressing with the heel of your hand. And all you're going to do is you're going to crush your garlic. And you're just going to get those juices flowing. And you're going to activate and you're going to kind of manipulate those water bonds, is really all we're doing. So this guy's really good stuck together. Right, that's actually one clove. So again, we're just going to crush it. And because I personally, and I know a lot of people that are watching, a lot of people on my channel here, love garlic. We're all garlic fans. I don't like going super small in this. I don't want it to completely disappear within my soup. I want the flavor profile to be alongside of the onions. So after I do the simple crushing of the garlic, all I'm going to do is I'm going to run my knife just in a julienne motion to get these beautiful chunks of garlic kind of half slivered. With the crushing process, we've again broken those water bonds. We've released all that moisture, starting to release that moisture out, which is going to allow a lot of that unbelievable garlic flavor to permeate all the way through the dish. So we're just going to get all that garlic all chopped up, because man, like I said, we really like garlic around here. It's one of our favorites. So we're just going to go deep on it. Get that entire bulb done. And it's just going to go, so again, these onions have been steaming and cooking in here. So we're just going to drop that directly on top. Grab my paper towel here real quick. Give that a quick wipe. Grab my spoon, and now this is the real stuff here. So this is what we're going to do. We are going to dig around in here. We're going to start to move some of these onions. So as you can see, some of those onions already are starting to get a really nice caramelization on top. And they're going to start to brown really nicely. So we're just going to get all those kind of mixed up a little bit. And now we're just going to let that completely go back to work. I'm going to turn this all the way up to full temperature, all the way up to high, because really what we want to do is we just want to caramelize. We want to caramelize and caramelize and caramelize. And we just want to put all that flavor and just fortify it. That's the big thing about this, is all about fortification of flavors. Layers and layers and layers and layers and layers. So, we're now going to do some herbs. Now, I've just simply purchased, and you can get this at almost any supermarket these days, this is the poultry pack of fresh herbs that you can find at most grocery stores carry. The reason I really enjoy this package specifically is because it comes with a little variety of fresh herbs. So if you're looking for a few things, especially these common ones, this is a great way to get a nice selection of it. Now in this package it comes with parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. Yes, you're thinking of exactly what we're all thinking about, and that's okay. All I'm going to be using out of here is I'm going to be using some of the rosemary, the parsley, and the thyme. The sage I don't really use in my soup. I find it has just a little bit of a flavor that I'm not quite looking for. So we're going to do this. All right. So at this point in time, all I'm going to do is we're going to start stripping these herbs, and we're going to cut them all together because they're all going to the same place at the same time. So we're going to start with the thyme, which is the most delicate herb we're going to use today, which requires a little bit more finesse when getting it off the stem. You're simply just going to take your fingers and very lightly pinch and pull. You're going to pull those beautiful pieces off the end there. And the nice thing about this is it's activating, again, it's just activating all of the water. You're breaking the water bonds as you're pulling this off. So like my fingers where I'm pinching right now, they smell amazing. The stem of the herb, here, let's see, how does that smell there, buddy? Smell that. Tell me how that smells.
Yay!
Smell real good?
Yes.
Excellent. You excited for soup tonight there, bud?
Yes.
Yes.
Daddy.
Excellent.
Daddy, why did you say I can help what you did? Let me help you.
Okay, well, you're helping right now. So thank you for that aroma check there, my young man. I appreciate it. You know when the 7-year-old likes what he smells. You know you're in good shape.
Yes.
All right. So we're just going to keep pulling the thyme off of there. Now we have all that beautiful thyme. And then the same with the rosemary. You're just going to take a little pinch. You're going to pull it down just to the stem, and you're just going to lightly grasp the outer tendrils. And you're just going to kind of pull down on the rosemary stem, and all of a sudden, all that beautiful rosemary just falls right off. Then we go back to the top, and just pull that stuff right off there. And then for the parsley, again, the tender stalks are perfectly great for this. So we're just going to allow that a little bit there. Just going to clean up my herb stalks real quick. Get them out of the way. Now, before I cut those, I smell caramelization, which is good. Which basically means, to some people, it smells a little bit like burning, but we kind of are. We're coaxing out those sugars. So we're going to give this a real nice stir. Look at that. That's what we are talking about right there. That deep brown, that char, that almost burnt on the bottom, is honestly exactly what we're going for. That caramelization is where all the flavors are going to be coming from. Hey, Duchess and Coffee, thank you guys so much for joining. I appreciate it so much. Thank you guys. But here we go. So we're getting all that caramelization. So now you can even see all those onions that weren't even caramelized yet. When we turned everything around, it picked up all that beautiful color and all the caramel off the bottom. It's almost like doing a deglaze without actually adding any liquid to it yet. So, well, Coffee, if you need a little help with fried rice, you can actually go back into some of my past streams. There should be a streaming collection of all my cooking streams. I did fried rice one night, and I did a pretty simple sauce on there. So if you need a little help, that's a great place to start. Really, for chicken fried rice, soy, maybe some hoisin, touch of hot sauce. That's all you really need. Just a heads up. Anyway, back to this. So we turned over the onions. They're caramelizing beautifully. Now we're going to come back over here, and all I'm going to do, again, is I'm just going to take my knife. I'm going to bunch up my herbs so they're nice and tight together. And we're just going to run the blade all the way through here for a quick rough chop. And then we're going to switch directions, and then we're going to go really, really rough on it. We're going to go to town. We're going to dice these up really, really nicely. Pull them all back together here again. And then we're going to do the same thing one more time. Really make sure we get all those herbs really nicely cut up. And now really, you don't need them super fine. I like to go a little on the finer side with my herbs, especially in a soup, because I want them to disperse throughout the entire soup. I don't really want to get a bowl full of just an herb spoon. So we're going to get all those herbs off there. Now I'm just going to take my knife. I'm going to gather my herbs just as such. And we're just going to drop those guys right on in. So now we can really smell it in here. Man, the onions and the garlic are starting to caramelize. We are getting some very, very nice aromas coming all the way through this kitchen. It's going to make our new neighbors jealous. And then we're going to get into this. So once again, we're going to stir. We're going to get all that off the bottom. Remember, it might look burnt. As long as it's not char black right now, we want it. We want that caramelization. We want that caramel. We want all that flavor. Oh, yeah. Those onions right now. All right, so now we're going to start adding some fun stuff. I have a little bit of brandy and a little bit of port. Now, we're not going to add a ton. We just need a little bit to deglaze and, again, add a little bit of sweetness. So with the brandy, this is 1.5 ounce shot glass. We're going to add 1 ounce of brandy. Now, If you are using a gas stove, if you are cooking this over an open flame, please do not do this with the pot on the flame. This will catch fire. The vapor will ignite. Do it in an open space. Take caution. I do not want you burning yourselves, please. Nobody wants that. It's no fun. So, we're going to add that right in. Now, I'm going to stir that around. Oh my goodness. The smell of the brandy is beautiful. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to add, again, this being 1.5 ounces, we're going to add 3 ounces of port. Now, if you're not familiar with what port is basically just fortified red wine. Sometimes it's aged. It is a beautiful product. I highly recommend looking into it. And we're just going to add 3 ounces of that directly into the soup. Now, that is going to act as our caramelization, our deglaze action. And that's going to help pull up all of that caramelized onion up right off the bottom of that pan. Now, we're going for a full reduction on that alcohol. We want it all gone, okay? That's the big part of this, is we want all that gone. Because now it's nice and sweet and sticky, and look at that. Look at the color of those onions. That is just deep brown, beautiful, amber caramelization. That's what we're looking for. And that is perfect. Now, personally, this next step is something that I do that you don't necessarily have to. Not everybody does. This is just something that I believe in, that I really like to do. I like to personally add a little bit of butter, a little bit of flour. We're going to make a very light roux to slightly thicken our soup. Now, I'm going to add about a tablespoon of whole salted butter into my pan. We're going to let that melt. It's not going to take too long. Now, while that's melting, we're going to grab just simple white flour. Now, we're just going to move that around. We're going to let that flour, or that butter, melt in there. Get that fat rendered down in there really, really nicely. And now what I'm going to do is we're going to start with just a tablespoon of flour. A little bit more. We're going to start with 2 tablespoons. About 1.5 tablespoons. And we're going to mix that in to our onions. Now again, we just want to pick up a little bit of that extra moisture that's in the bottom of that pan, because we're just making a really basic roux. We're just going to want to slightly, this is just going to ever so slightly add some body and base to the actual liquid. So I'm going to add about another teaspoon of flour in there. Now, the one thing you're going to notice is right now I have not added any salt or any pepper to this. All we have is fresh herbs. So, that is all nice and incorporated. That flour has now been cooked off. Now we're going to add our stock. Now, normally, I would have taken the time to make my own stock. But being in the new place and setting up, we haven't done that. Luckily, this stuff's pretty good. I do recommend either the reduced or no sodium stuff, because the regular stuff tends to be a little on the salty side. What we're going to do is we're going to start by just adding a little splash just in there. Now, the reason we start with just a little bit is we wanted to pick up the thickening agent, which is the flour, right off the bat. Now that's the first thing. Basically, we're going to make a gravy in the bottom of this. So we're going to use that liquid, and it's going to hit the bottom of that really nice hot pan, and it's going to pull off all those scrapey bits on the bottom. We're going to get around there. And now we're going to add a little bit more. And again, this also will help us maintain our heat level. This way we're not adding too much liquid at once, and we're not going to drop our temperature really, really low and then have to really take a long time to build it back up to that simmer. So again, we're just going to scrape the bottom of that pot. We're really going to work all the stuff off the bottom of that pot. You really, really, really want all the crusties, all the goodness on the bottom, because that's the flavor. That's the pure flavor that this soup has to offer. Now, as you can see, we are starting to thicken up. And again, that's just that little bit of the roux in there. All that's going to do is that's going to add a little bit of body, and it's going to help carry this soup into the bowl. Because now every time you're going to take a bite, you're not going to have to scoop to the bottom, especially if you have a deeper bowl, to make sure that you get onions, because the roux is going to help suspend the onions directly in the soup. So again, we're just going to add a little bit more stock. So I'm now up to about a quarter of that 1 liter container of stock. And we're just going to move that around. And again, scraping the bottom, making sure that you get all that deliciousness off the bottom of that pot. Because that is all the flavor. That is the literal and absolute best part of this soup. Now really, all we need to do now is we're going to have to bring this back up to full temperature, and we're going to have to let this simmer. And luckily, because we're making kind of a quicker version, because we added that little bit of roux in there to help thicken it, because we used the alcohol to expedite the sweetness, and because we used all the herbs in there, we don't have to let this reduce and reduce and reduce and reduce and reduce and reduce. We don't need to let this go all the way down and really fortify. Normally, again, if I was making this in a restaurant situation, after we did most of this without that roux step, this would sit and simmer for probably an hour and a half, 2 hours as it stands. And that would simply be to bring it to the consistency and get the flavor profile that I'm looking for. But like I said, we don't want to wait that long, right? You want to be able to make this for your family, and you want to be able to make this in time where you can get this on the table in a good time. So I am getting into my 2nd liter of beef stock here. We are just going to add some here. So ultimately, I'm going to put all that stock in there. So we're adding about 2 liters of beef stock in total. So really you've added 2 liters of beef stock plus a total of 4 ounces of alcohol. So you're really not looking at a ton of liquid. So this doesn't have to reduce. That's the best thing about it. So now we're going to bring this all the way back up to a nice rockin' boil. And then we're going to turn it all the way down to a simmer. And this, as soon as it comes to a simmer, you give this 5, maybe 10 minutes at the most. You've got yourself a soup that you can absolutely eat and enjoy, and it's ready to go. So we're just going to let that hang out for now. I'm going to switch my knife out, and we're going to grab this beautiful loaf of bread. Now, what's the best part about French onion soup? Like, besides deep caramelized onions, it's the cheese and the croutons, right? Because the cheese and the croutons on top, without that, French onion soup is not very fun. It's not a great soup. It's just onion soup. So that's where the good stuff comes in. Now, normally, in most restaurants, we have bowls that can withstand up to 500-degree ovens. And we can chuck them in an oven or throw them in what's called a salamander, which is a top-down little broiler unit. And we can quickly put some croutons and cover it with cheese and put your soup into that broiler or into that salamander and get that super melty so that it's adhered cheese to the top of the bowl. It's crusty, it's bubbly, it's fresh. And you gotta break through to get into that soup. It's like a treasure hunt. We don't have that ability here. Our bowls aren't quite that strong. So we do the next best thing. Now, I am absolutely blessed around here to have access to the Italian bakery. It is one of the oldest bakeries here in Edmonton. The one that we have by us burnt down a couple years ago. They rebuilt it. It is the original. It is amazing. They make some of the most incredible product. If you're in Edmonton, go there. Go there. Just buy their stuff. Buy literally anything they make in-house. You will not be disappointed. Tonight, what we've opted for is just a beautiful loaf of their French bread. And it smells good. All right, buddy, come give it a smell. Here, smell that. What do you think?
Please give me the whole entire bread, please.
All right, so that's the 7-year-old's mark of approval there. He wants all the bread. Well, you can't have all the bread.
Give me all the bread.
So what we're gonna do? Eat that. 7-year-olds that don't like bread, but that's a good way to start. So there's 3 of us here tonight, so I'm just going to do 3 really nice big pieces of crostini bread. Again, I keep calling them crostinis. They're not. Crostinis are super thin and crusty. These are going to be a little less than that. So I'm going to cut these at about, about a 1/2 inch slice. And then all we're going to do is we are going to add a little bit of butter, a little bit of pepper, and some Monterey Jack cheese. Now, you can use mozzarella or provolone. Those are the other 2 cheeses I definitely recommend. For me, personally, my favorite, Monterey. I absolutely love Monterey Jack. It has a great melting point. It has a lot of flavor in it. And it's relatively inexpensive. It's an easy cheese to get a hold of. So all we're going to do, I have some very nice room temperature salted butter. We are just going to put a little bit on the tops of each of these, like so.
Thank you, Daddy.
You're welcome. Butter makes the world go round, doesn't it?
It tastes way better with butter.
Of course it does.
Butter is the key for bread.
It is. Butter is the key for bread. 7-year-old's full of wisdom tonight. It's kind of nice. So,
I'm a wizard.
I said full of wisdom. But you can be a wizard too. You're a wizard, Tommy.
I'm a wizard.
Okay, that's enough. I gotta keep doing this. Alright, so we have come back up to a full boil. And I'm gonna tell you something, this smells just unbelievably good. Now that color right there is life. That's everything we want it to be. That is nice, caramelized, golden, nice and beefy, lots of good onion flavors in there. And now, again, if you're simmering something, you have something to a boil, and you want to check how it smells, never put your head over top. Please waft that. That smells awesome. But I can tell right away, even just through the aroma, that we need a little bit of salt. So I'm going to add about a tablespoon of salt. And we're going to add 2 tablespoons of fresh cracked black pepper. Now personally, I actually really like seasoning at this point in time when my soup is at a boil, because it will kind of grab that seasoning and auto kind of put it all in there. I'm just going to give that a nice stir around. We are going to lower this temperature down to just below medium, because I just want that to simmer now. All I want that to do is just kind of build those flavors. I'm just going to get rid of my crumbs. And now it's on to the cheese, because cheese. All right, so I have a nice piece of Monterey Jack that is very, very soft and melty right now, because it's super warm in here.
I'll bite it.
In a little bit.
Aww. Okay.
So we're going to grate it.
Okay.
Just over the nice big,
Okay.
the biggest grater points on your cheese grater, because we want surface area. This is a great way to get that. Now, again, I like a lot of cheese on my French onion soup. That's something that I will judge a place on. If you have French onion soup, chances are I'm going to order it. And if you skimp on the cheese, chances are you're going to hear about it. Because don't skimp on chef's cheese, all right? That's a life lesson right there. Don't skimp on chef's cheese. All right, so we've got cheese. Now we're going to take some of that cheese and we're going to put it on top of each piece of bread. And again, don't be shy. Get that cheese on there. Go. We're going to get more cheese.
Thank you, Daddy.
You're welcome, bud.
Yummy cheese. So
Okay,
yummy.
so we're going to get lots of this cheese on top of there. Now, I have a 425 degree oven. Ooh, look at that. Just enough pepper in the middle to finish that off. Alright, so I have a 425 degree oven. This guy's going to go in there. 400 degrees today. And I don't mind to show it in the oven because it's nice and clean. Ooh. We're gonna go in the bottom rack because I want those guys to toast really, really nicely. Now, really all it comes down to is we can clean up. Because while those crostinis are going, it's time to just kind of clean up your space a little bit. Get your bowls out and get ready to eat. Because we are, at this point, all we need to do is let our crostinis crostini. So we've got our bowls. We have our beautiful soup. But let me tell you, it smells absolutely incredible in here. So we're just going to kind of turn that back up a little bit. We're just going to let that reduce down for the entire time that I am cooking those crostinis. And that's it. You know, like that's all there is to it. French onion soup is, again, it's deceptively easy. It's one of those things that people hear, and people, especially when you see it at a restaurant, because it looks so fancy in that very specific bowl with the handle, the melted cheese and everything, and it's intimidating because you look at it and you go, I can't make that at home because I can't replicate it exactly like that. And you know what? You might be right. But don't let that stop you from trying. Do an interpretive version. It's as simple as, instead of melting your bread and your cheese in your soup, we do it separately. We do it on a piece of bread in the oven. And we still get that exact same effect, because when we put that nice toasted piece of bread on top, it's going to soak up a lot of that moisture. It's going to get really nice and soft. And that cheese is just going to get even more melty as soon as that extra warm soup comes up through the toast and hits that cheese. Like, that's the biggest thing that I try to keep reiterating here on these streams, is that if you've seen it, you can do it. Like, you really can. It's really, 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 really easy. Or at least easier than you think. And guess what? You probably have more talent than you give yourself credit for. A lot of people underestimate themselves big time when it comes to cooking. I see it all the time. I can't tell you how many times I have had a chat with a dishwasher, or if I've talked with somebody new to a kitchen, and they're like, oh, you know what, I applied to be a dishwasher because I don't think I can cook. Well, you don't think you can cook, or you can't cook? Well, I don't think I can. That just means somebody hasn't taken the time to teach you. And that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help. I'm here to help encourage, and I want to help and teach you guys. So with that being said, again, you can come and find me on multiple platforms. Twitter, Uncensored Chef with 2 F's. Please follow me on there. Get a hold of me. Ask me questions. Beg me for recipes. I will happily oblige. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. I do gaming streaming, so if you're interested in that, please come and check that out. Tuesdays and Thursdays, you're obviously here on Tuesdays, so you know what's up. Thursday as well, 7 o'clock, we're going to be doing the cooking stream. Thursday, I've got something special in plan for everybody. We are going to do an ultimately crazy, creamy, super duper extra sexy mac and cheese.
Daddy, when you say that word, it makes me, I want to eat you.
You know it's going to be good.
Please give me all the mac and cheese in the house, please.
On Thursday. Now, with that being said, if you, in the chat right now, if you put an exclamation mark followed by TUC, that will give you a link to my Discord channel, which is just simply a chat channel on the Discord servers that I run, that you can come and get a hold of me. We can chat anytime. I like to say it's like having a chef in your pocket. We like to share food, we like to share funny pictures, and we like to just chat and kind of connect with people. So if that's something that interests you, if you'd like to have chef in your pocket, please jump on that on the Discord server and come check us out and hang out. So I'm going to give these guys a quick look in here. Whoa. All right, we are ready. Let me tell you, we are ready to go. So, soup goes off, oven goes off.
Here comes the cheese bread.
Unbelievably cheesy, perfectly melty, not over 400 degrees. Very hot. So we have this beautiful piece of cheese. Now, this is really easy. We now take an unbelievably beautiful bowl of this deliciously hearty, flavorful soup. Oh, look at that. Look at that broth in there. That is just absolute money. And all those beautifully soft caramelized onions. I'm going to take a little bit of that soup. I'm going to take one of those beautiful pieces of toast, which are just crusting up, and we're just going to pop that right on top. Now that, my friends, is a bowl of French onion soup that will pretty much satisfy anybody who does not hate onions. If you enjoy French onion soup, if you enjoy soup, if you like hearty, delicious things, if you like comfort food, that right there, that is a bowl for you. So once again, as always, thank you everybody for coming and joining me. Thank you for spending some of your quality time with me. I really appreciate it. I'm super happy to be back doing this. I cannot wait to share more food with you guys. So please come back, check us out on Thursday at 7 o'clock. Extra creamy mac and cheese. It's going to be super great. If you feel like coming and hanging out and chatting and watching some gameplay, Monday to Friday, 8 to 11. Guys, thank you so much. Lots of love to everybody who comes by and stops in and spends your time with me. So thank you so much. Thank you for joining me in my kitchen today. I am Scott. I am the Uncensored Chef. We'll see you all in the kitchen next time. Have a great night.
Okay.